Hello guys, welcome to this lesson. Now we'll start already with the main part of this course of Catalan, the part 1. So we'll start with move 4 for black, d takes c4, which is one of the most principal ways to play and one of the most aggressive for black. So let me show you what we're gonna see in this particular lesson. So here after g3 we already have seen some rare moves as h6 with the idea bishop d6 and some other like knight e4 and some other moves. But now we will continue with d takes c4, bishop g2 is the main move. Of course white can give queen a4 check, but it's not very ambitious. So let's say we go bishop g2, the main move, and now black has plenty of options here. This is where we're gonna see all kinds of options for black, and I hope that I can give you a very good repertoire for white here. So in this particular lesson we're gonna see the rare move b5. I think in this particular case immediately playing b5 is not a very good option for black. I think actually this is a bad line for black. I think black is having big troubles after b5. And of course in the next lessons we're gonna see all kinds of other options. If black wants to play b5, maybe it's better to prepare it by a6 or even c6. b5 immediately looks a little bit premature. And I want to show how exactly to play after b5. So after b5 we have two good options. I think the main move is a4, which is very good, immediately attacking the pawns, of course. Another option is knight e5, knight d5, and then castle. I think it's also good. Probably they transpose to each other maybe, but I want to show the move a4 first. Although knight e5 and castle is also, I think, good. So let's say a4. Now he must go c6 most probably. Black has only one alternative here. It's probably to play bishop b7 to give up the pawn. If he goes b4, this is just bad. Knight e5, castle, and eventually we will recuperate the pawn, and this is simply not good. The bishop is so good. e4 is coming next. It looks very suspicious for black. So that's why here after a4, if black doesn't want to go c6, he may go bishop b7 to give up the pawn, and after a b5 to go a6. Actually, there's one game of very strong grandmaster Alexander Ryazantsev. He played a couple of years ago this line, but it looks very suspicious in any case. White will win a pawn, and I think black will suffer a lot here. So I think let's say we take, and this is the critical position where I think white has many different ways. I want to show you some of them. Probably the easiest one is just knight bd2, just trying to take the pawn immediately and then to develop by short castle. It looks very simple. There's some other alternatives, for example, castle, it also makes a lot of sense. Or even bishop g5, which is interesting. It's not taking the pawn immediately, but it's also interesting option. The idea is after knight b4 to exchange, to take here and to castle, to basically disturb black's pawn structure on the king side, and then eventually by knight d2 to try to take this pawn c4. So bishop g5 is interesting. Another very interesting option is queen a4. I think it's also very suspicious for black. Knight d7 is more or less the only move. And now we go for queen b5 is the best, because we cannot take immediately, I think, because of some bishop d5 and we have problems with our queen. So that's why queen b5 is very good, attacking the bishop on b7. Knight b4 is more or less only move. If rook b8, we can simply take the pawn, and this is just not enough. White is just returning back, knight c3 is coming, and white is just pawn up. For example, here we go bishop f4, we take. I don't think black has enough compensation. So that's why after queen b5, queen a4, knight d7, queen b5, the only move is knight b4. We go here, take knight e5. This is the whole point of queen b5, attacking the bishop and also the knight on d7. So here after knight e5, basically he has to play c6, his only move, because of course if bishop g2, simply queen d7 is giving a mate. So he must go c6, we take the pawn, bishop a6. If knight e5, it's possible, d5, bishop e7, but it seems to be not enough. For example, if bishop a6, we simply go here and then we castle. If bishop e7, We have some alternatives. We can even just castle probably, but a very interesting option here is queen g4. This is the computer way to play. Trying to provoke black. If he goes castle, of course, bishop h6, he's just winning. And if he goes knight c2, we want to go here and bishop b4. This is a little bit complicated, but it looks very good. Queen b1 and then king g2. So now we're temporarily piece down, but this pin is very unpleasant. The queen is blocked here, and he never can castle because bishop h6. He must go g6. And now white has fantastic move. We have maybe some other options, but the best move by far is king h3. Just the king is very safe here. Black is still pinned, and it seems that black doesn't have good way to develop. If short castle, white simply wins by bishop g5. So he needs to go here, we go queen f3, he needs to liberate somehow, but we're simply returning the piece, and after all these consequences here, rook d1, white is a clear pawn up and definitely very good chances to win the game. So here after queen c4, instead of knight e5, I think the best option is bishop a6. So now if queen c3, knight e5, this is not so clear. Here, castle, and still black has this initiative. It's very difficult for white to castle. I think black still have some compensation here. So that's why after bishop a6, the simplest way is just to take the pawn, another pawn, take, bishop b7. Of course, this is what black is counting on, d5 and knight f6. So now black will take one of the pawns back, but still will be pawn up, and still white is just better. For example, here, of course, if bishop b4, bishop d2 is the move. This is the idea. And if here we simply go castle, bishop b4 is still met by bishop d2. Knight e4 is the best. Here, take, bishop b7, c4, bishop b3. And probably the position is kind of defendable, maybe castle, rook c8 is coming. But still we are clear pawn up, and definitely black is suffering a lot. So this is one of the options here after knight a6 to go queen a4. Maybe objectively black has some chances to survive, but it looks in a practical point of view very difficult. But in any case, I think the simplest way is just to take the pawn, knight e2, take the pawn, bishop e3, sorry, knight e3 of course, attacking the bishop, bishop e4 castle. And black has some compensation, of course. Probably he will go bishop e7 or bishop d6, then he will castle. It's only one pawn and very little material, but in any case, white is pawn up, and probably simply a very difficult defense for black. I think it's just a torture here. So this is about a4. If he goes bishop b7, we simply take the pawn, and white has different ways to continue. So after a4, the main move is c6, which is probably worse than bishop b7 objectively. But this is the main move in the remaining games, and this is the whole idea of b5, to keep the pawn somehow on c4, to keep this pawn alive. But now I think white has very good options. Knight e5 is the main move, I think is the best. If we take here, is also an option, and here probably we'll transpose to the main line after some bishop e7 or bishop e4. So here the main move is knight e5, I think is similar, knight d5. For example, if bishop b4 check is also an option, we go here, and then we take on b5. So now I think the position is very suspicious already for black. It's just a very difficult position. For example, if he takes this pawn here, bishop d2, obviously he cannot take on a1, because after queen a1, this is just winning position. White will simply take on c6 next. We have pair of bishops, and these pieces are not developed. White is just probably winning. So after bishop d2, the only way to go is here, and now the best move is knight f3, attacking the queen, take, and take with the knight. Castle is very forcing line now, we take c3 here, knight a5, very good move. The idea is after c2 to simply block with queen d2, and the knight on b3 is not attacked. Now c7 is the next move, so he must go here, we take the exchange, and now we have different ways, maybe queen b3, maybe simply queen a4, trying to exchange queens. And obviously we will take one of these pawns, maybe even both of them, and I think the end game is very close to be winning. So this is about knight c3. So let's say after bishop b4, knight c3, knight d5 take, he might go c takes b5, then we go castle and bishop c3. Now we have two options. One is to go e4, which is very direct, I think is very interesting, trying to take this knight and then to bring the queen maybe to h5 or f3. It's a bit more complicated, but it's very good also. But the simplest way is just to take the piece back. If knight c3, then we simply go here, bishop a3, and this is terrible for black. Black's king is very weak. And after bc3, if he goes castle, we simply go here, we go e4, knight f6, because this is too much after queen f3, attacking the knight and the pawn. Only move here, we take, and we have very stable pair of bishops. We will take this pawn. This pawn structure is very good. So eventually d5 is coming. I think white is clearly better, very promising position. So after e4, knight f6, and now we have different moves to gain the advantage. The computer suggests g4 with the idea g5, simply with a pair of bishops and very strong center. White is clearly better, even though we are pawn down. I think white has a very good position. Very typical, and these bishops are simply very dangerous. So this is about bishop b4. After knight e5, the main move, the most played move is knight d5 immediately. So now we castle. Of course, we can also take knight c3. It's also interesting if bishop b4 this transpose to the previous line, and if bishop b7, we simply take the pawn. I think this is the easiest way to play, just to take and play knight c3, take the pawn, a6, knight a3, similar. So let's say check first, a6, now we might go knight a3, I think is the best, c3, castle, and this leads to very good position for white. We simply give check, we take, probably white will just win a pawn. Of course, still there are some technical issues, but white will just take this pawn d2, and white is clearly better. So a takes b5 is one of the options, is very good alternative to the main line, but the main line is also very good, castle. And now black has very big problems. Bishop b7 probably is the most logical move. For example, this is just losing after e4, trying to play queen h5 next. If knight e7, then knight f3. The position is very passive. Black has a lot of weaknesses, and white is pawn down, but will open the position eventually by b3. It looks very suspicious. And after e4, if he takes, we simply take, check, we take. And then after rook g8, we simply take on b5, and white is much better, probably winning. So this is about f6, I think it's a bad move. If bishop e7 is also very passive, we simply take knight c3, and we will take back the pawn on b5, and eventually even this pawn on c4. I think white is much better. Another option after castle is to go a6 here. This looks a little bit slow, but it's a possible move. Now we have some options. We can go e4 with the idea d5 next, looks very promising, with some queen f3 or queen h5 ideas, but the easiest way is also to take here, take, and now knight to c3, I think looks very logical, attacking this knight and also this pawn. Here I must say that also there are some alternatives. For example, b3 is very good as well. This is the game Anish Giri, Alexander Morozevich played in Beijing 2012. I think b3 looks very typical, and just opening the position, take. So now the game continued, bishop b7, which already is a mistake. After e4 and d5, white got probably winning position. He cannot take because this line is very dangerous for black's king. And if he doesn't take, there are already some tricks like take here or knight f7 first. So after queen b3, the computer suggests that rook e7 is the best defense. Here knight c3, still very unpleasant position. I think it's very dangerous. Some d5 is coming, some bishop here maybe, or rook d1. Objectively, it's very unpleasant as well. So b3 is definitely an option, but the move knight c3 is a bit more logical and also looks very promising. Bishop b7. For example, if he takes immediately, this is just bad, because white has this very nice trick, bishop c6. And now by force, white is winning an exchange. For example, this is simply bad. We can take the pawn on b5, but we can also just push d5, and white is just crashing. Bishop d7 is losing an exchange by taking here, knight c6. White is just taking the rook on a7. And here, if knight c6 is similar, take. Now we have some options. We can exchange the bishops by bishop a3, or we can simply go d5, and I think white is just much better. Black doesn't have enough compensation. He has one pawn, but the king is still in the center, and this gives white a lot of initiative. So this is about knight c3. If he takes, so I think bishop b7 is more logical to protect everything. And now the whole point of white idea is that we can take on d5. and suddenly black has tremendous problems. For example, bishop d5 is probably losing after e4, and d5 opening the position. This is simply bad. White is just crashing, knight c6, some rook e1. It looks completely winning. And after queen f6, we simply take check. This is also crashing. If king d8 e5, opening this bishop as well. And if knight d7, e5 is just winning. For example, after queen e5, we take. He must take here, and bishop b7. White is winning. And after e5, he must go queen d8 only move to protect the knight. But anyway, after d6, e d7, take back. White is just winning. The next moves are rook d1 and just take this pawn also. And white will be a pawn up, and very promising position. I think it should be a winning endgame. So after knight d5, the only move is e d5 and then e4. This is the whole idea. And I think white is just having all the fun. Some queen h5 is coming, some rook e1. The king is still in the center. Looks very, very suspicious for black. But let's still continue because it's still a bit concrete. For example, bishop e7 is natural move, which is just losing after e d5. He must take, because if he doesn't take, then knight c6 is coming and white is just winning. And if he takes, this is the trick. We have this knight f7. And if bishop f7, bishop e8, of course. If king f7, just queen h5, white is just winning. So this is the whole idea. And after e4, if he goes bishop d6, take castle. This was the game Hek Zude played in Dorenheim 1994. White is just probably much better after bishop d2. This was the game. Threatening some knight c6, some bishop here as well, some rook e1. These pawns are quite unpleasant, and I think white is much better and potentially even winning, I think. So after e4, the main move probably is to take, just to see what is going on. And now we need to play also very concrete, so we need to play queen h5. I think already looks very good for white, but still we need to be accurate. If queen e7, we simply go here, rook e1, and eventually we'll take on e4. White is just crashing. If queen c7, the best move is bishop e4 immediately into rook e1. And now this pin is just winning for white. The king is too weak. For example, if queen b7, we simply take. Now we have maybe different ways to win, but bishop d2 looks the best. Trying to give this check, king c8. For example, here knight f3. With the idea rook e8 next, white is just crashing. So this is about queen b7. If he goes g6, we have this small tactic. We take here, check. Simply the king is too weak. Queen d5, rook a7. If he goes knight c6, we simply go rook e7, and we're winning some material. We're just winning this rook. If king e7, some bishop g5 check, and it's just a mate. I believe after check, eventually check here, and then rook e1, white is just winning. So after queen d5, rook a7, we simply go here, cutting the king, and white is just crashing, rook e1, here. Now d5 is coming. Even the end game is just winning because this pin is very unpleasant, this pawn is very strong. For example, king f7 is simply g4 and rook e4. And black cannot protect everything. If king g8, then rook e7 is giving a mate by rook f8. And after dc6, if he goes g5, we simply bring the bishop. And then eventually some c7. So probably he needs to sacrifice on e5, but I don't think it's enough. I think white should be winning. So here this was about knight c6. If rook a7 is similar, we simply go. Yeah, we already saw this line. I think it's just winning. So basically this is about queen c7. I think bishop e4 is just winning. And if he goes g6 immediately, we simply take. Now it's very concrete, but it seems to be winning. Knight d7. Of course, black still has some compensation because of this queen. Some knight f6 is coming, maybe king f7. So we need to be accurate. I think the best move is h4 to bring the bishop on g5. Knight f6. Another serious move actually is castle, with the idea after bishop g5 to go here. And now black is winning the queen. But luckily enough, we have two rooks and very good bishops. For example, we just take, we go here, we go back. Obviously taking this pawn is too much because we will bring the rook, and it's very dangerous. We will go rook d1, some bishop h3, white is just winning. So he needs to go g5 to create some counterplay. We go rook e1. Probably queen g6 looks decent. If knight f3, I think this is also winning. Now white has very serious attacking chances. We just go here, rook h5, some rook e5. The king is too weak and these rooks are very strong somehow. So after rook e1, probably the best move is queen g6. Now we take, and black has some practical chances, but the rooks are too strong, and also we have some passed pawns. I think it should be winning. And so after knight d7, h4, king f7 is, sorry, knight f6 is of course the other move, and after bishop g5 to go king f7. Now, for example, this line is not so clear. Here he can simply go, if queen h7, bishop g7, and if we exchange, black has very good compensation thanks to the pair of bishops and some very strong pawns. So here it's very unclear. So after king f7, I think h5 is the move. This is the winning move. Here in queen h7, a very strong tactic, take. Still, of course, some compensation, but I don't think it should be enough. I think white is much better. But of course, black still has some kind of chances, probably. But thanks to this very strong bishop, this pawn, probably white should be close to be winning. So this is about this a6. I think both e4 with idea d5, or even just take knight c3. I think this is very good. White is just much better. So now we're moving to the main move, which is after castle to go bishop b7. Once again, we can start with e4, or we can take b5. I suggest e8 is b5, but e4 is also very good. I want to show you as well. If knight b4, we simply go here, very strong move. If a6, we just go there, and obviously g6 is met by queen f3, is very unpleasant. And if queen c7, bishop f4, this should be winning. I mean, this pin is very difficult for black to play here. And after knight e3, he must give the pawn, but then we simply take the pawn, and I don't think it's enough. I think white is clearly better. So after e4, if he goes knight f6, we simply go d5, is crashing. If cd, we take, it's clear advantage. Next knight c3 is coming. Also, this pawn will be taken. And after d5, if he goes bishop e7, the whole point is knight f7, d6, giving up the piece. If he takes this pawn, then knight d2, here and d5, and some tactics are coming like e6, knight d4, knight g5. So here probably the best move is here, knight d2. Here the computers are suggesting that white is probably close to be winning, but still there, in a practical game it's not so easy because we are piece down and it's very complicated. But objectively is very good, so that's why, I mean, e4 is very good, but I suggest a8 is b5. But I think e4 is also objectively is very good, and practically also depends on your style. But what I want to suggest a little bit simpler, we just take and play b3, just open the position, and it seems to be very simple, and white is not risking anything, white is just clearly better. If he gives up the pawn, we take it, and now we take there, very important. We go here, we go here. Eventually we take this pawn back, and then we will take also this later. So I think white is clearly better here. And after b3, if he takes on b3, we simply take back. Knight c6 is a novelty, probably the only chance for black. If he goes a6, there's some games. I think white is crashing after e4. Now the initiative is tremendous. If knight f6, we go d5, very strong. Take, and queen e3. And now the king is extremely bad. I think white is just crashing. For example, bishop e7, rook d1, this pin is probably winning a piece. And if queen e7, we go here. Obviously, before it's met by take, knight c6, white is winning the queen. And if he goes queen e6, rook e1, I think the position is not defendable. It's simply everything is falling a piece. For example, if he takes, we just take with the queen, and black never can castle. I think white is just winning. And another option after e4 is to go here, then we go d5, we go here, a5, we take, queen e3, still these very unpleasant threats. If knight c2, we go here. I think white is just winning, take, rook d1. It's very forcing line now, but it seems that everything works. I mean, everything is just hanging. The king is still in the center. Here, we go here, we take. Now he cannot protect everything. For example, this might lose just to knight f7 and some queen e8. And if he goes here, we can just take it. He takes here, queen a5. And now it seems that this knight is still in danger, and I think we'll just take it in the next moves. Because this bishop is protecting this square, and the knight is protecting the other square, so I think white is just winning a piece here. So this is about a6. I think the best chance for black is to give up this pawn. So now if we take it, queen b6 is not clear actually, already black has counterplay. So I think it's better just to take and to go e4 and d5 to play for the initiative. E5 is just winning for white after take. Now we have some alternatives. Queen b5 is probably good as well, but queen b2 is just winning. The idea is to attack this pawn, and after bishop g2 to give check, take, and now white is just winning. We'll just take back on g2, and we have a lot of threats. And after d5, if he goes bishop d7, now we have some alternatives. I think according to the engines, rook d1 is also very good. The idea is after you just try to take maybe, and after e5 you just want to go here. If queen b8, bishop e3, if a6, knight c3. Black doesn't have development, white has a lot of initiative, but still this to me looks a little bit difficult in the practice. So that's why I suggest just to take. I think it's the easiest. If he takes with the pawn, we simply go here, and now this looks very good. This is attacked, this pawn is attacked, also some knight c3, knight e4 is coming, it looks very good. And if he gives up the pawn, we just take it, and white is just clearly better. Next move is bishop e3 maybe, and probably we'll take this pawn, so I think white is much better here. So this about b5, I think it's really a very dubious line for black. I think nobody anymore should play this line because it's just very bad. Probably knight e5 is good as well, but I think a4 and then this knight e5. I think white is just better. Of course, there's some options, some lines that we should remember, but in any case, it seems to be very easy and kind of simple for white. So thank you for watching this lesson, and see you in the next ones. Thank you guys. Thank you.